This is Rooted Cosmic Soul, sacrificing the patriarchy from a broom closet in the here and the there, offering rememberings in times of chaos and bullshit. In the last episode, I was talking about this idea of being and doing, and I've still been sitting with that. And in my journaling today, I had this sort of epiphany. It goes with the energy that we're in. Venus just went into retrograde. And I was working with this really awesome worksheet that Madrona's Pulse Teachings offers her Patreon, so I want to give her a shout out. She offers these really great prompts with retrogrades and new moons, full moons and stuff. And I was journaling through this idea of Venus retrograde in Aries is in my blank house, allows me to relearn how I align my desires to ... right? So you can look up with your natal chart, like, where is that Venus retrograde in Aries? What house is it in? And of course, mine is in the 11th house, which is, for the last couple of years, most intense shifts that I'm being asked to make as I come back into myself, as I am even in the process of opening this door to my broom closet to the rest of the world, has been because of 11th house kind of stuff, work, that explorations that I've been doing. But specific to this moment, I had this like really amazing epiphany around the idea of review, release, relearn, right? Review, release, relearn. So I'm learning that in evolutionary astrology, for those who follow it more than I do, bear with me. For those who don't follow it at all, my understanding, like, evolutionary astrology has different facets to it, right? I know I've worked with shamanism astrology. I guess there's like traditional, there's like all different types of astrology. I can't name them off because I don't know them. But I know that evolutionary astrology is yet another aspect. It is the one that has spoken to me and the path that I'm on the most, but I'm also a being that came here to expand, to explore, to engage new things, to expand. Constant evolution is something that thrills me. I have a lot of Sagittarian in my being, but I've been thinking about, particularly with this Venus retrograde, of this idea of like review, release, relearn. And it really helped me kind of look at, like, okay, if this Venus retrograde is happening in my 11th house, which is friends, community, it's you, this person who's listening, whether I know you or not, you're in that house. My relationship to you is in that house. And I was thinking about the ways in which how I'm moving in this house is so very different from before, right? And so my understanding is that in evolutionary astrology, when a planet goes into retrograde, it's asking you to revisit things, right? It's asking you, like, is how you're living working? Is your being and doing, is it working for you? And it's really interesting because I touched on this in the last episode, but like, I've spent so many years in large groups of people, in community. I had jobs that put me in, I was I've been a facilitator for a very long time. So I've been facilitating rooms of, 5 people to 150 people. Like, that's been my world since my early 20s. I was a social butterfly. It's very easy for me to make friends. I generally like being in conversation with people. I've had difficulty with humans, but I Do like being in conversation with people sometimes, but I was always doing that. My doing of that was always from this place of seeking validation. Like, if I showed up enough, if I was smart enough, if I knew enough, could share enough, show enough, make you laugh enough, if I could do enough, then how you responded to me would give me the validation of my worthiness. And I don't think I'm an anomaly here. I think that's an aspect of patriarchy, white supremacy, and capitalism that it's integral to it existing, because in that sort of state of seeking external validation, one can be controlled, one can be oppressed, suppressed. If I don't understand my power, I'm going to easily yield it. And damn, I've been an A student in that yielding. So sort of this, some of this work, this review, like reviewing that behavior, and then releasing myself from it in terms of forgiving myself for not knowing. Maya Angelou has a beautiful quote of forgive yourself for not knowing what you did not know when you did not know it. And so that's part of the release, forgiving, or memories I have of how other people really manipulated me, and whether they knew what they were doing or not, but manipulated this lack of worthiness, lack of value that I held in order to get me to do what they wanted me to do. Not necessarily what was aligned for me, but what was aligned for them. Forgiving them. That's the release. And then the relearning of I'm worthy, perfect and whole, exactly as I am and exactly as I'm not, just as you are. And that sounds, so I know when it comes out of my mouth, it sounds trite. It's just kind of like people are going to poo-poo it. And it gets poo-pooed because that's the construct. That's what it wants us to do. Because, again, if I move from a place that this idea of divine love, unconditional love, acceptance, worthiness, value is inherent, it's really hard to oppress, suppress, and control that type of immanent power, that type of power within. It also lends itself to not wanting to break into factions, right? As we're seeing on the left right now, everybody's turning on each other, which has kind of been the case forever, but really seeing it now, of who did what wrong as to why the United States in particular, but I guess the planet, the global planet, is the way it is. So if you too are feeling this energy of retrograde season, we've been in really significant experiences of retrograde, I offer you this idea of review, release, and relearn. And it's going to be different for all of us because we're all different individuals. And at the same time, know that you can do it. It's possible. You don't need any additional tools. So you may need some additional support depending on what light and shadow aspects you're working with, right? You might need therapist or best friend or a journal. But you can look inward. You can go inward. Your self has all the answers you need. It just, depending on where we are in our individual stories, that journey, the unpacking of that, the pulling up of the roots, it's layered. It's layered. It could take some time. And we've been trained to be impatient and not want things to take time. But again, that's an aspect of how we're being oppressed, suppressed, and controlled. So that's my offering. Review, release, relearn, if you so choose. This is Rooted Cosmic Soul, sacrificing the patriarchy from a broom closet. The energy here stays here. The energy there stays there. I'll sense you later. Return when moved to do so. Same Bruja time, same Bruja channel.